The President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honorable Jack Bwembya, our guests from civil society, senior government officials, members of the press, you're welcome to State House. This afternoon's proceedings will be as follows. We'll start with a prayer after my short remarks. After the prayer, we'll have introductions, and after the introductions, we'll have the welcome remarks from the President of the Republic of Zambia, which will be followed by remarks from our guests, led by Mrs. Isabel Mukalebai from CSPR. And thereafter, that will be phase one. Second phase of the meeting, our colleagues from the press will take leave, and thereafter, we'll proceed to have the second phase. And the second phase, again, will have the two sets of remarks, which will be followed by a prayer and a photo session outside the grounds. With that, Mr. President, I will proceed to have a prayer. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together. We ask, Lord, that you be with us. Give us the wisdom, the grace, and the desire to serve our people to the best of our ability. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. The President will proceed with the introductions. I'll ask the lead to go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Isabel Mukalebai. I work with the Civil Society for Poverty Reduction as Executive Director, and also the Delegation Lead for the Civil Society Group for today. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, honorable members. Lungi Sanizulu is my name. I'm from the Law Association of Zambia. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Maurice Nyambe, Executive Director from Transparency International Zambia, and thank you for having us here.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Laura Binti, Alliance for Community Action.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Henry Mulenga. I'm a legal practitioner at Chapter 1 Foundation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Gideon Mwapimsonda, Executive Director for Advocates for Democratic Governance Foundation.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Irene Tete. I'm the Programs Manager at UCZ. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Atinam Gata from Kias.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Mtale Wakonoma. I'm representing the Zambia Council for Social Development.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Father Paul Tapyunga Nrenda, Deputy Director for JCTR.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Chilombo Mukena from Chapter 1 Foundation. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Nyambejere. I'm from the Free Press Initiative.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Kenneth Mambwe. I'm from Law Association of Zambia.
Greeting, Mr. President. My name is John Mapondo from the Southern Africa Center for Constructive Resolution of Dispute, Sakodinchon.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Wilbrod Kangala, coming from Caritas Zambia.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Chika Chilekwa. I'm representing ActionAid Zambia.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Kazike Sakana.
I'm representing the People's Action for Accountability and Good Governance, PAGS. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Vusumu Zisifile. I'm representing Panos Institute, Southern Africa. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm Solomon Ngoma, Executive Director for IPAC. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Samuel Banda, Executive Director of the Advocates for National Development and Democracy.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Elijah Ruvuta. I am representing the Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEM.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is George Shonga, representing Majors of Justice and Democracy Foundation.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Francis Chiri from the Zambian Institute of Governance and Civil Liberties Platform, ZCLAP, also a member of the Civil Society Consortium.
Mr. President, good afternoon. My names are Isaac Mwanza. I am the Executive Director of the Zambian Civil Liberties Union and also Chairperson of the Consortium of Civil Society Organizations. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Richard Mulonga. I work for Bloggers of Zambia. Thank you.
Zambian side, on the government side.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and a warm welcome to our guests. My name is Chipa Monawasa. I'm the Policy Advisor to the President.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Pamela Nakamba, the Economic Advisor to the President.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon to our guests. My name is Nishimunya Nedziwe, Specialist Legal Affairs, State House.
Murilo Kabesha, Attorney General of the Republic of Zambia. Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, again, and good afternoon, dear guests. I'm Patrick Kambo, the Secretary to Cabinet.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Jack Mwimbo, Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you. With the introductions done, we will proceed to have the welcoming remarks by the President. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Secretary to the Cabinet. Let me commence by acknowledging the presence of the civil society team, quite an elaborate team that is here. We're delighted to have you here in your state house. This is your house. People like me come and work here for a period of time, then you bring someone else, and this house belongs to you, the people of Zambia. So you're welcome to your house. Let me acknowledge Minister of Home Affairs, Secretary Cabinet, Attorney General, and my colleagues from State House and other departments of government. My duty, first and foremost, colleagues, before we go into the substance of our conversation, I think that brought us here today, I simply want to reiterate what I've said before, to offer our condolences to ourselves as people of Zambia, panel of course, but the people of Zambia for the loss of our sixth president, and to also use the opportunity, because you are citizens, to indicate to you, with due respect, that the view, the desire, the view, the position of your government is for our sixth president to be buried in his homeland, in Zambia, where he was born, where you, the citizens, elected him twice to serve, to preside over the affairs of our country for a period of 7 years. I think it's important that I say this to you because it's an opportunity for me to repeat what you know I have said before. God is the giver of life. only he takes it away. When? We don't know. How? Only he knows. We all subject of what has happened to our sixth president. When it happens, irrespective of circumstances, our sixth president went to South Africa not to live there as a resident or citizen, or indeed as a refugee. He went there for medical treatment. The issues around the medical treatment is a subject for another day's conversation. But we believe that citizens decided that presidents who lie at Embassy Park, or the five before him, lie there. Some had various issues around them by the time they died. Late President Chulu has had quite a lot of litigation around him by the state, by the presidents who were there at the time. But when God called him, we honored him with a state funeral, with all the military protocols of one who occupied that office, this office. I know President belongs to families, an asset of the family, but by virtue of the office he occupied, he's also an asset of the people of Zambia. I thought I should say that, and if I return to the President Chiluba's example, many of you are not aware that President Chiluba and I shared just an 8-inch wall fence. We lived next door to each other. When he passed on early morning of that day, I was one of the few people to be at the house. Because I was the next door neighbor, I just walked in there. And one of the early conversations was, we need to inform the head of state, president at the time. It wasn't my duty, but it was my responsibility to say so to those who were close. And they did that as a family. And the president announced it. In our case, my colleague was in the hands of the family, medication issues around. I knew he had passed on very early in the morning of the 5th of June. I decided to say nothing until we consulted the family. And I reached out to the Secretary of Cabinet, my team around. I said, I cannot announce the death before the family is engaged. Family refused to engage us, subject for another conversation. While we were still struggling to do that, the family made a public announcement. And once they made a public announcement, that's the time I said, that's confirmation. It shouldn't have been like that, but it's like that. And the same day, the president issued a statement. I didn't take 48 hours, as people said. The record is there. Why am I saying this to you? I think it's important as citizens for you to be aware of this information. Because I scan what's going on social media, a lot of time. So that's the circumstance that we find ourselves in. But the point is that that's our desire to bury him here. I know amongst yourselves there's probably polarization of views, but really, he was not an ordinary citizen. He was president. He's the only president who lived after leaving office and went to his Lord with his immunity intact. Those who lived before him after the presidency, they all had their immunities tampered with. President Kaunda, President Chiluba, President Banda. So this fellow talking took the decision that we must end this kind of stuff. So again, contrary to what is being said in the public media, facts are there staring at us. Whether we bend them or not, they're there. But let's honor him by burying him here. The issue of what issues surround it, I think it's a discussion after the burial. We are trying very hard on your behalf. But if we don't manage, it's because of not trying. ultimately to be an issue beyond our control. I took this reasoning myself to explain this to you as citizens. We'll continue to explain. You've seen the statements we've made. The confusion around seizing the national mourning was because of that Wednesday, when we should have received him, and we had extended mourning by 9 more days. But then Wednesday came, you know the Wednesday I'm talking about. We couldn't continue mourning in perpetuity. It's got no connection to the issue or the desire to bury him with full military honors. Absolutely not. And we said the families, if they're willing, we are able to engage. We are pilot. We are doing this thing as a duty. Thank you, colleagues, for giving me your ears on this matter. Now, today's meeting, I already thanked you for coming to the meeting. I reiterate that. I thought that engagement is important. My dear colleagues, engagement, dialogue is important. Not shouting at each other, not calling each other names. That culture will not build this nation. We thought that whatever the issue may be, we must dialogue. We must keep the dialogue open, civilized, respectful dialogue, not throwing stones, not threatening each other. Absolutely no. On what issue? On the constitutional amendment. On the constitutional amendment. No, it's not for me. On the constitutional amendment. I want to say to you, colleagues, the constitutional amendment process was never a matter that we wanted to be malicious. Never. You heard the issues about no, HH wants to extend his term by 7 more years. No, none of that. HH and his government want to drop the running mate. No. HH wants to drop the majoritarian system, 50+1. No. Our intent then and now is simple, is noble, to address issues that cause problems. I will leave Article 52 to the Minister of Home Affairs. Why we thought Article 2 needed to be amended. 52, not 2. 52. Article 52. That we've all talked about the cost of violations, women representation. We may not be doing it to your liking. Even amongst yourselves, I'm sure you're not agreed. It's normal. But the intent is genuine, to bring women for the first time, in addition to those in an open election. Are the numbers enough? Maybe not enough. This is a good start. The youth, are the numbers enough? Maybe not, but it's a good start. So are those who live with disabilities, our family members. Let me return to violations. It's a very, very expensive venture. It is destructive. It is acrimonious sometimes. I know you've forgotten already, 4 years ago, every time there was a violation, there was blood. A lot of it. Not a little, a lot of it. There was a lot of tears. A lot of pangas. I know you've forgotten. Because that's who we are, Zambians. Forget quickly. But people are talking out of context like there was never mayhem around by-elections. There was. Maybe the occasions still happening now and then, very minimal. Life is also about a benchmark. What was it before? What is it now? We're working hard to stop all this. But I think we can also use the money available to us, resources are always scarce, in a better way. Buy an extra, build an extra classroom for a child, employ an extra teacher, honestly speaking. Buy a bit more fertilizer for a few more people who need it for food security. Is that perfect? No. Never. But it's the right direction, colleagues, honestly speaking. I can cite a few other examples. Attorney General, for 3 months, because of a technicality, when the election is held, new party wins, they want to put an Attorney General. In fact, immediately there's a change of government, the Attorney General and Solicitor General leave office. Without handover. Without even a motivation through a letter, there's no instrument. This is defined. Immediately there's a change of government, Attorney General and Solicitor General must leave office. Now, is that how we run institutions called government? Who is the handover? You can't present a budget. My dear friend seated here. Elections are in August. At that point, there's already a budget season on the table. You cannot present a budget without the signature of the Attorney General. So how do you manage public resources? I think we are not applying ourselves to the key things that need to be addressed, which are in the Constitution. The process will take 3 years or so, three months, I beg your pardon, because of the parliamentary processes, what do you call it? Ratification processes. It's there. And let's assume the names that have been presented are not acceptable to Parliament. It means you have to start all over. So it could take 6 months. So how do you deliver resources to the owners? You, the people of Zambia. Last President. It is not a wish list. It is a genuine challenge. I faced it myself when you elected me to office. And I was quite frustrated. I said, how have we been running things? I can cite other examples. Nominations. Currently 8. In percentage terms, 5% of the elected members. The rationale behind there has been there even pre-independence, colonial days, to take care of certain interests. How did I make this fellow make use of the 5%, 8 nominated? We didn't get MPs in Lwapula, in Northern. And this president chose to bring inclusion in the government rather than exclusion, which we saw from my ministers. Minister Kapala from Lwapula, Minister Muvanga from Mchinga, Minister Mwamba from Northern, Minister Mutaji from Northern. If there was no provision like that, there would have been no cabinet minister from Northern, from Lwapula, Mchinga. I don't want to get to qualitative issues. I'm just talking about basic warm bodies, human beings. There would have been none. Was that acceptable to me? No. Maybe it was acceptable to you? I don't think so. Country must run on inclusion, not on exclusions. So, but when we made a proposal that there will be nominations, presidential nominations, we made a mistake. I want to admit, we made a mistake. We did not present it properly. It looked open-ended, Madam Chair, like the president may nominate 30. It was a mistake, which I admit. It was meant to retain the proportions, 5% of elected members. On the proposal we've made, 256, correct me, Naziwe, 256, and nominated MPs will be 10. It's a paltry number. To carry on with the reasoning, with the rationale that was there before. Nothing malicious. I've come to notice that in this country, a guy like me is always viewed to be malicious and assessed differently from presidents before me. You want me to justify that? Yes. Oh, this country since independence has had 4 political parties running the country. UNIP, MMD, PF, and now UPND. All these 3 have amended the constitution. UNIP amended the constitution, I think twice. 1972 or 73, correct me if I'm wrong. 1991, it was UNIP that amended the constitution. In 1996, MMD amended the constitution. In 2016, PF amended the constitution. There wasn't this sort of hatred I can touch, I can feel, because it is a church. It is this animal pariah we don't like. Why don't you like your fellow citizens? What's the issue? When did they amend the constitution, Chair? Because you are saying, no, you don't want to amend the constitution in the election year. 1991, election year, UNIP. 1996, MMD, election year. 2016, under PF, election year. January, election was August 2016, President Bwembya. This fellow, you are saying, no, you can't do it. What is the issue, colleagues? With due respect, with politeness. Timing? There's no divine time. The process we're invoking is under Article 79. There is no other article. Constitutional review commissions have been held. Chona, Mwanakatwe, Mungomba, which one else? Mvunga. And then the NCC under the late Mwanawasa. I think. Did they result in a total overhaul of the Constitution? 0. Those who say not or not, 0. None of them resulted into an overhaul of the Constitution. This particular fellow, this particular government, no, we want a total overhaul. Why? Let me just mention 1 or 2 more things and I'll stand down. I'm really asking for a normal conversation. Assume I'm not the president. I must assume I'm just a fellow citizen. Why? What is this heat all about? What is this abuse, throwing stones, insults, all of this? So now, an attempt was made for an overhaul of the Constitution in 2015, when we had a referendum. Most of you have forgotten. Referendum would have allowed us to amend the Constitution holistically. The referendum failed. We were not even availed with the results of the referendum. I don't know who knows the results. Oh, we know it failed. Citizens said no. Would I want to go in that direction? Would we want to go in that direction of referendum? No. The way the referendum is defined in the Constitution, are there lawyers inside? Other than the president. Yes, there are the lawyers. President Lungisan, you described to us the definition of 2/3 in that Constitution for a referendum to pass. It's not 2/3 of those who vote. It's 2/3 of the eligible citizens. That's the wording. To get 2/3 of the eligible voters, citizens who vote, means you have to whip everybody who doesn't want to vote. First, to register. Secondly, to get them to vote. You can never succeed in our referendum provisions. You are here, you're the lawyer. I'm not. I'm just a casual reader of the Constitution. But since you elected me into this office, I read it a lot. So I can avoid making mistakes. So you don't send me to jail. Madam, meet the definition, Madam Chair, of the referendum 2/3 majority is the 2/3 of eligible. Those who are supposed to go 18 years and above. You can never succeed in a referendum. I don't know how we're going to, it means we will not touch the referendum forever. Because until we change the definition of 2/3, you can debate it for another day. But that's my interpretation. So it fails. So it means that Article 78, therefore, 79, I beg your pardon, is the one that the subsequent government applied. What is special? What is this anger about this individual and this government? I'm beginning to suspect that there's unfair treatment. Was there consensus? Would there be consensus in a community of 20 million people? No. 100% consensus? No. All these constitutional review amendments were there for 100% consensus? No. 2015, we were all here. 2016, sorry. We were all here. The debates raged on and on and on. But at least that amendment led to a running mate coming in to avoid presidential by-elections. By the way, Chair, that sets the precedence for our argument over avoiding by-elections. Why did we amend the Constitution to avoid presidential by-elections? I know you know. Cost, time, disruption. We're just walking in line with already a precedent citizens made that they don't want by-elections. Why just at the presidency? Why not MPs? Why not council mayors? Why not council chairman? Why not council? Why not? The Russia now was already agreed. And we're using secondary data, Mwanza, to benefit from the various constitutional review commissions. We've extracted quite a lot from secondary data. The money was spent. I know people want to belong to be part of the Constitutional Review Commission, to go round and round and round, the allowances. Secondary data is there. Let's use it. Not wholly, but partially. This is the approach of this government. The clear opposite of what has been going on and has not succeeded. Lengthy, expensive processes. My dear colleagues, this is what I thought we should engage a little bit. I don't want to waste time. I'm only picking a few things to suggest the importance of this process, not to ignore the need to make amendments. Low-hanging fruit, full-fledged, not possible. Maybe when one of you is the head of state, maybe you'll have so much goodwill that you can get 75% to amend the Bill of Rights. I know my colleagues will come and say a few things. I just wanted to open the dialogue and emphasize the importance of talking to each other. You have concerns? Yes, that's the way it should be. Are we willing to hear them? Yes. Can we reach amicable resolution? Yes. 100%? No. But reasonable. We know process protects content is safe. Now you know the content, those malicious things are not there. Maybe it's only malicious to us, to those who say them they are very disrespected. But now that you know the content, and the mistake which we made, I didn't conclude that point. I drifted a bit, but to reinforce it, it's not open-ended for the presidential nominations. Let's keep the 5%. We've corrected that. But I know the 80 first cut is the deepest. The impression that was left was that the president wanted to nominate 40 MPs so he can have majority in the House. No. So I think, my dear friends, I've said why I thought we should engage. I think after debate we would maybe reach some reasonable level how we can proceed. But there's a willingness on our part as your servants to hear you out, to also see if there are certain things we can alter to allow, for example, the issue of further consultations. Will you consult for 2 years? No. Because we were falling in the same trap. Reasonable time. Check. Reasonable time. Because this is not for us. It's for the people. But we must also know our limitations. Time is money. And we designed it that we don't waste money through time. But if citizens have voices, they are unhappy, let's hear the citizens. But last president, just to simply say, no, we don't want. What is the meaning of that? Even before the content was known, no, we don't want. Why don't we dialogue? We made mistakes. Yeah. Correct us. Correct us, madam. This is your country. It's not my country alone. We share it equally. I know some people think they are more citizens than others. I disagree. We share the country equally. There's no segregation of citizenship. We all are one. Weight. One citizen. Mark 1, 2. So, I'm also aware that you are concerned about the NGO bill. NGO Act first. I think there's a law already. Then the bill that we have promulgated, which we thought we were solving a problem. But I do pick now that a number are not happy with it. We want to hear you out also. We are happy to reach some amicable position. We want to do what is right. We don't want to over-regulate anybody. In my view, after all, there are enough laws to regulate all of us. So if we don't want the bill, what's the problem? We discuss, we agree. What about the existing act? Tell us what you don't want. Maybe we can work together. You can give us suggestions what you want. Done in that area. But let's continue with the process. Let's not stall the process. Let's see what is the solution. Nobody wins at all in this process. The limitation I cross here, some constituencies you have to drive 40 kilometers, 400 kilometers from one point to another. 400. I know a number because I've traveled around this country in my difficult days. And I would ask, we're still in the same constituency? The answer is yes. I think we need to address those issues. Especially that we're taking money closer to the communities. When we started this process of an NCDF, we didn't want to calculate equity. Equity is a qualitative aspect. Because of the divisiveness in this country, we focus on equality, equal quantum. We knew that some constituencies were bigger than others. Didn't we know? We knew. We knew that some constituencies had more people than others. But we thought this is the time to address that a little bit. So people say, why have you stated now? We first had to address COVID we inherited. We had to address the debt situation. We had to address restoration of the economy, which had plummeted to minus 2.8% GDP growth a month. Chair. To abuse a few people who will not be angry with me when I call their names out. I won't call you, I wouldn't call you out, Madam Meeting. So, but you will not be angry with me. We had to deal with the economic parameters. There was no economy, colleagues, here. You don't have to be trained in this field to know that there was no economy. How do we know? Economy went down, debt went up, couldn't pay council salaries. We know that. But I'm sure we have assumed we've forgotten. So we thought that first let's handle those issues of restoring the integrity of the state. Rule of law. When did you last hear or see on television blood at Kulimata? When did you last see blood? When did you last see blood at Intercity? Where America won, Eddie Gore was operating for P.F. Carter, beating people to hell. America too, Muchemwa. When they were running Intercity, blood was weekly there. When did you see blood at Intercity? Oh, Kamukoti. Right? You see, these people never experienced what we saw. And I understand it. Yeah? Some of them. A few of them spent a night or two in the cells. A few of them, I remember trying to help one. It is different now. But when we talk, last president, it's like there's no change. It's actually getting worse. There's no democratic space. In the context of what? What is the benchmark? 4 years ago. It was bad. We are gradually getting better. Colleagues, we can do more? Yes, we can. We're going to. I want to end here by saying I'm so grateful that you came, especially in your diversity in terms of institutions, Madam Chair, in your numbers. And I want to encourage us to retain civility, mutual respect, politeness, when we engage each other, even when we are not happy with each other. A lot of people misread me a lot because I'm quiet. People say things. Every morning they say things about this fellow here. And my wife says, do you have a dual personality or what? Because I've been married to you for a long time. I don't see this character people are describing about you. I said to her, it's okay. It's all right. It comes with the territory. But we can do better as a nation. Especially we in this room. We can do better. To talk to each other properly. Thank you, Chair. Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll quickly move on to the lead for the civil society.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for taking time to give us those remarks and to very candidly lay out what is upon your heart. Because I think those remarks really felt that, first of all, you appreciate the dialogue, the space that you yourself have facilitated for all of us this afternoon. But it also does feel that, Mr. President, you are also ready for a sincere conversation. And for that, we are grateful as civil society organizations. One of the biggest challenges that we do face most times is to be in a place where our role can be recognized and respected for what it is. The diversity you spoke about, our role in supporting oversight to governance, and also just being recognized that as individual actors, but also as a collective, we are equally concerned about governance of the country. I think we come to the table sincere. We come to the table also recognizing that whilst we may not agree on everything, there are important aspects that civil society continues to raise that could be instrumental to informing government on choices that can be made. You have highlighted very pertinent issues, and on behalf of civil society, I still do want to assure you that our intent also when it comes to governance reform related processes is always to undertake it using very well-informed analysis. And you will notice that some of the positions we have put out to the media, to Parliament, directly with the executive, usually have a very clear analysis to it that highlights what it is that we are concerned about, why we are concerned about those issues, and the potential implications and risks that we see for achieving good governance. And having listened to you, I think, again, it's important that we just buttress the fact that civil society remains very, very open to also understanding issues of intent. You made very clear the point about the intent on the constitutional amendment bill and reform process that is being undertaken. And I think you also acknowledged some of the things that perhaps were not done well. I think you also acknowledged the fact that at the beginning of the UPND government administration, I think in 2021, 2022, there were discussions already around the constitution amendment process, but perhaps competing priorities may have led to different choices at the time. And I think our discussion today will highlight what concerns we still have with the process, what concerns we still have with the content. I think civil society has always tried to be very, very respectful of the fact that government has machinery. Government also has processes. And even where we don't agree on everything, we do have the expectation that where government decides to proceed in undertaking these reforms, there will be sufficient justifications provided to its citizenry. And I think that's the sort of engagement we seek. Where government is saying they cannot halt a process, it is for us to understand what these justifications might be, and whether or not proceeding in that direction then delivers reforms to the best interest of everyone. And I think you raise an important point on equity as well, because when we look at the parameters now surrounding development in Zambia, we are very concerned about that question of equity. We are concerned also about the fact that development to a large extent is a right for every citizen. Every citizen must have water. Every citizen must be able to access food. It should not be an option, and so we share in that collective, value, in that collective responsibility. And this is why I think we would be failing in our duties if, Mr. President, we did not acknowledge some of the things that we consider as gaps in certain processes. And I think coming to the table today, we are all quite prepared to articulate a number of issues around the constitutional amendment process, which will touch on a number of things around key proposals, for example, around the mixed member parliamentary representation and processes that are proposed in the amendment bill. We also have some concerns that would relate to the increase in the number of elected members of parliament, And some of the processes, I think you already alluded to that. I think there are also specific clauses around the dissolution of Parliament and some of the clauses then that have been proposed in the new bill that we would like to speak to. There were some clauses also that would be speaking to the experience of the Secretary to the Cabinet, and also the issue of cost, which you alluded to quite clearly. I know you talked about issues of timing and how successive governments have also undertaken these reviews in an election year. We do think quite sincerely and honestly, Mr. President, that you have exhibited a lot of strong leadership on many matters that have been very difficult. And our coming to the table today is really in the strong belief that things can be different, that you can actually speak to a head of state and be heard. It may be worth noting that in previous administrations it was extremely difficult to have an opportunity to sit at the table. So even we as civil society recognize that. And we do think that coming here today is not just a matter of ticking off a box. It's really us pouring into one another, appreciating the fact that yes, our views are different, but that collectively we share in one vision. And because of that, I think, like I said earlier on, the delegation here is quite prepared to outline a number of issues. On the NGO bill, we did undertake a number of processes, Mr. President. You may know that last year, working with the Ministry of Community Development, I think the bill was withdrawn from Parliament, and we did engage in a number of forward processes around consultations. Yes, there is a bill already, the 2009, I think, non-governmental act, actually, not a bill. And then a bill now which is under consideration. But you may also recall that even at the time that the previous administration introduced this bill, civil society had pushed for self-regulation. And there were reasons as to why we did not want that particular law enacted in this country. Civil society, NGOs, go beyond the ones that deal with governance issues. Development really is trusted by the work of NGOs in Zambia. Take away the NGOs, take away the civil society organizations, you will find that certain communities will not be able to access the basic needs, that they need to be able to thrive. So I think our role must not just be recognized when we are saying no to a law, but the sum total of what we bring to the table. That in certain communities, the only services communities know are the services that NGOs have brought to the table. And that comes through partnerships, Mr. President, because your administration has emphasized the role of partnerships. When we look at how we are implementing the National Development Framework, it's emphasizing partnerships. And we thrive on that, because I think that's what we are supposed to be doing. But the enabling environment is key. We see similar kind of reforms for the private sector, because we understand the importance of investment. Similarly, if we understood the importance of a thriving NGO, then we know the value that comes with NGOs that are able to play their role in a space that is not, restricted. And that is why with the previous administration we were very clear. Of course, we were not able to get what we had raised with them, so obviously you come in and you find there's this law. Our appeal has been, this law is already there. We don't think it's a good law. Is there opportunity to understand what it is now that your administration thinks still needs to be fixed with this law? Because that question is important for us to understand. Most of the NGOs that work in Zambia have demonstrated ability to comply with different pieces of legislation that have been put in place. Is it PACRA? We are complying. Is it audits? Is it annual returns? We are complying. Is it Zambia Revenue Authority? We are complying. And we have been saying if you introduce certain clauses that are now seemingly wanting to over-regulate NGOs, it will be extremely difficult for us to operate. The licensing fees, for example. We were very clear with your executive, the Ministry of Community Development. We told them this is not going to work because NGOs and civil society organizations are very broad in Zambia. There are small ones, there are bigger ones, there are middle-sized NGOs, and our compliance levels are all very different. But the Ministry of Justice told us that in their general crafting of the law, they have to include things like criminal sanctions where there is no compliance. So we tried to negotiate. And from where we see things now, the bill has gone back to Parliament. And our position has been the same. That if there's room to really look at our concerns, we'll be happy to outline what those concerns look like. And lastly, I think in a way, civil society has also kind of been misunderstood when it comes to how we understand certain reform processes and how we respond to some of those. For example, on the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Acts, what civil society, I think, was trying to do was to highlight particular clauses that would then restrict if interpretation also is subject to different issues, depending on who's, looking at that particular clause and how they choose to use it. So I think you gave very, very clear examples where power sometimes can be abused. The intent is good, but the operational aspects for us, I think, have been the fundamental question. And how then issues of safeguarding can be amplified so that we are not putting a good thing in, but when we no longer have responsible people, what happens if somebody comes in and abuses the same clauses? So I think there are a number of things that are important perhaps to understand why civil society is moving in that direction. And so, Mr. President, as I close, I again just want to reassure you that the organizations you see here are sincere in their conversation with you. In fact, it is unprecedented that a sitting president would call for a meeting, an open call such as the one we received. We've been doing this kind of work for many years. We've been defending even issues of constitutionalism for over 30 years, 3 decades, that civil society organizations have been working around constitutional matters. There have been very few occasions where a sitting president has actually called for a dialogue like this one. So we commend you, we recognize your effort, and we are grateful. And we hope that as we speak into the very specifics, you will then be able to see whether these concerns that we are tabling before you today are genuine or not. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kalabai. With that, we request our members of the press to take seat.